The Songwriter Chapter 13, Standing Firm. It's difficult to see beyond the horizon or consider there are new horizons yet to come in a distant time far away. As I started to think about returning to Sydney, I realised home now was in sight above the clouds across the horizon, and the only thing left to do was to get my Australian passport. It was August 1990, and I had a room at the Lime Grove Hotel in Victoria, a busy centre of London. The room was big enough for me, a bed and a TV. The English summer was in full swing, and life was good. I had already completed the application and paid the fee for my passport, so in a short time I would be leaving for Australia, but there was still a few things I wanted to do before I left. I wanted to visit Linda again and look in her eyes. I wanted to see the girl that I had come halfway around the world to marry, only to have her say it was the end of the line for me. I wanted to stand firm and let her know who I was and where I was going, and at the same time to bear no grudge or ill feeling towards her. I wanted her to know I had a life and a place to go, which was not the end of the line, but a new journey back in Australia. I began to see the streets of London through different eyes. The streets were crammed with American tourists, Japanese film crews, European senior citizens with cameras around their necks and money to spend and a lot of time to do it. I looked like one of those people, a tourist at the market in Covent Garden, browsing through the coloured freaky acid house design shirts and board shorts, baseball bats, rainbow coloured summer wear, CDs and DVDs. The pavements of Piccadilly were a long way from Tipperary and a sight for a busker like me. As I walked along Regent Street, a very well-dressed Indian man approached me and asked for some money to get a taxi because he had to go to the airport in a half an hour. I looked at him and smiled and handed him a £10 note. I felt relieved that it was him asking and not me. I met another man in Piccadilly Circus who was troubled because he needed to get back to his wife who he had just ran away from, so he needed to borrow some cash to get there. Without the word of a lie, there were so many people who couldn't see the truth even if it stood right in front of them. Con artists and hawkers and all kinds of people trying to sell souvenirs or London bus trips for tourists like me. I was a complete unknown, like Bob Dylan said, like a rolling stone, with no one and nothing to do and nowhere to do it, just to hang around London with time on my hands, to smile and stare back at life. So there I stood in my soapbox in Speaker's Corner in Hyde Park, with a head full of things to say to anybody who wanted to listen. I began with a question: are there any songwriters out there? And then I continued: poets have now become songwriters, and music has been hijacked by professionalism, and now songwriters have lost the ability to see which direction they should be going in and translating their stories and images of life to the world. The music industry dictates to songwriters what they need to write for the marketplace. Radio stations are paid to play song recordings chosen by publishers just to make money. There are millions of songs, and there are millions of songwriters out there who stand firm and will not be moved to write what other people want them to write. They stand firm on their principle of who they are as original songwriters. Could someone give me an amen out there, please? Yeah, when it comes to music, and songs. There are two kinds of people in this world: those who write songs and make music, and those who write contracts and make money. Today, the world needs real people, not plastic people. There are countless songs sung all around the world out there that cry out to be heard. Songwriters have a talent, and that doesn't just happen. It's a given thing, and it demands total dedication and commitment and courage to write the kinds of songs that speak for many out there. And long may the songwriters of this world continue to write those songs and to speak for the people and to be the voice for them. And may they continue to bring original material in the world and shame on those tyrants who make it hard for songwriters to be heard. I felt good when I got off my soapbox and walked away, back through the park. I bought a cider apple from the man who ran the fruit stall on the main road. I felt good that I took a step out there to tell people how I felt about music and writing songs. Speaker's Corner was one of those venues in London where you could just do something like that if you really believed in what you were talking about and stand firm no matter what people say. Otherwise the hecklers will devour you. I looked at the nameless faces walking around the streets, the wild and the dangerous, and those with a childlike innocence about them on the sidewalks where they passed with smiles and frowns. Back in my hotel room, I looked at the hundreds of songs that I'd written during the last few years. It was amazing I still had them. They had survived through all of what had happened and all of what I'd been through. They were treasures to me, and I needed to protect them. So I started to make copies of them, and I sent them all by post to my mother's home in Sydney. The idea of a new song called Lost Sons of Erin came to me. The song was about men who left Ireland and had never returned. They could be anyone: a fisherman at sea, a sailor, an emigrant, or a runaway. They all had something in common. They were lost to the land that they were born. As I started to write the lyrics in the song, I had kind of phone call come through, and it was good that I gave my forwarding address and where I was to Pat, because it was the High Commission in London, and they had told me that my passport was ready. Yeah, ready to be picked up. I couldn't believe it. Now I was able to go back to Australia. After I picked up the passport, I had a few things I wanted to do, so I visited Pat again in Lambeth for the last time. And I told him about Linda and asked him to come along with me when I was going to visit her. So both of us made our way to Dalstone, and I knocked on her door. When she opened the door, she was very surprised to see me standing there with Pat. She invited us in. I introduced my friend to her. She seemed lost and very alone. I felt pity on her, sitting there with sad stories, sad face, all the trouble she was going through with her job and relationship and financial problems. I told her I was going back to Australia and just wanted to say goodbye. She said how she wanted to return there one day and maybe we could meet up again. I smiled and thought, no, that's not going to happen. It's not possible, ever. I asked her if she wanted to come out with me to see Greenwich one day, and she said that she would. So I gave her a day and a time that suited, and I said goodbye. I left her flat, and I thanked Pat for all the things that he had done for me, and I gave him some money and wished him well. That evening I booked myself a ticket to see a new play in Her Majesty's Theatre, that had just come from Broadway. The play was called Shadowlands. The title of the play struck me. It almost described the place where I had been for the last few years. The following day I met Linda near Big Ben. I bought 2 return tickets on a boat to Greenwich. As we got off the boat, I looked at her standing there with the wind in her hair, and she looked out at the water. I seen her standing there, looking lost. And I wondered if she'd ever found happiness in her life. When we got to Greenwich, we walked around. We looked at the tall ships moored to the dock, anchored there from another time and place. We walked around Greenwich, and it was like stepping back in time to a place when things were much easier and quieter and less complicated. Linda and I had lunch and a drink before the return journey back. And I said goodbye to her, and I wished her all the best. And then I returned to my room in the Lime Grove Hotel in Victoria. I just love being me again and in control of things. I did some shopping and visited some very good steak restaurants in Victoria. I saw a few shows, and this very talented street artist who I paid to sketch a portrait of me as a keepsake and a memory of where I had been. I visited my aunts in Wellingborough and said goodbye to them all. They all asked me to remember them, and I said I would. I returned to London and visited St Paul's Cathedral, and then I said some prayers in Westminster Cathedral, the Catholic one in London. And from there it began to dawn on me. I began to pack away my memories in the background of my heart and soul for another day. It was almost as if it had been some kind of scene from a tangerine dream in that land of shadows, where I had seen sadness and felt the madness of a dog without a bone or a tambourine man without a beat on the street, lost and alone. But now the tide had turned, and I felt so much better. I felt an achievement in the very depths of my being, and I felt free. I discovered a new day. I could see a new horizon. I was walking away much wiser for the experience. The night before I left London, I finished writing my new song, Lost Sons of Erin. See the cold, cruel sea, how she's taken from me. My sons no more do I see. Wild wind in their hair, or rain on their face. Too long they've been gone from this place. Won't you come back to me, to where you belong? Lost sons of Erin, come home. We will come, we are coming. Lost sons of Erin, come home. Won't you come back to me, to the dawn of the day, when the mist it has gone and we'll see the sun shining down on the bay with the salty sea spray as the birds in the sky fly away to a place of their own where they belong. Oh, lost sons of Erin, come home. Oh, lost sons of Erin, come home. We will come, we are coming. Oh, lost sons of Erin, come home. Lost sons of Erin, come home. The song meant something special for me, and I put it away with all the rest, my handwritten songs I'd composed during the time that I was on the streets. The bag of songs was bulging at the seams, and I felt that they were a big part of my life, and I placed the bag under my bed in the room where I would carry it on the plane with me on the flight back to Australia. I went and booked my ticket to Sydney, and then I contacted my family and my friend Joe in Sydney to let them know the details of the flight. The day arrived for my flight to Sydney, and I was now, at last, on my way home. I sat in the international departing area of Heathrow Airport, and in a short time I would be back in Australia once again. As I waited with my carry-on luggage for the moment to be told to board the flight for Sydney, I let my thoughts wander and saw the images of me and my guitar, here and there with a song to share, and thought to myself, yeah, I came to town and played my songs for those who had time to listen. I hope maybe you will pass my way again somewhere sometime, for I'll be missing you and hoping you will be there again, because it's for you that I came, and you will always have my special place inside my heart and soul. You were for me a sticking plaster on my blisters, a comfort for the pain, a sweetener for the bitter taste. I'm so glad for the few who had a kind word of encouragement when I had no food, nowhere to sleep, nowhere to go. And as I stood there in the street of passers-by, you were one of those blessed few who stopped to say hello, and I will never forget you. Like a voice in the wilderness, I went from pillar to post, begging to be heard, and with every word I shared as a songwriter, I had a message to somebody somewhere, like you, who had time to stop and lend an ear to hear, or to open your eyes and to see. Maybe one day I will see you again, standing there in front of me on a quiet street where old ghosts meet, and I will sing again to you, but for now I must go in another direction, and it's there where you cannot follow. Nothing can tie me down or hold me back. It's time for me to go. Just like me, my songs have a life of their own, a moment in time when they chose to be known. Life is a song, and we must learn to sing along. We need to learn the lyrics of what was and what is and what will be. No encore place. I have to go. London, I will not be back for a repeat performance. It's time for me to leave on a jet plane. I'd be up and away above the clouds. No rest for the wicked, even less for the good. For now is the hour. I was brought back to reality as they announced it was time for all passengers to board the flight to Sydney, Australia. All the times that were had been and gone, and the times that were to come still had to be found. But now I just looked around at the people coming and going, in and out of London, and remember the words that John Lennon had once said, I hope we pass the audition. End of chapter 13.